this theme this month has been about abundance. And the youth chose the topic today that I make things grow. I make things grow. You know, this is the springtime, and the springtime is a time of renewal. It's a time of regeneration. It's a time of regrowth. But it's not a time of duplication and replication. Okay? There's a newness. Nature doesn't try to repeat exactly what it did before. Catch that. Life doesn't do the exact same thing twice. It's very similar, but each one is unique. Every sunset is different. Every sunrise is different. There is a constant ebb and tide of the ocean, yes? But every wave is different. And part of understanding abundance is that willingness to let it be different. Listen to what I'm saying. That part of the abundance is allowing it to be different, allowing it to be new. You know it's going to be good. You know the sun is going to rise. You know the sun is going to set. You know that the waves are going to come in and out. But if you have too much attachment, too much preconceived idea in your mind of exactly how it has to be, you're going to miss the abundance. You're going to miss the joy. Because we get into this thing called contrast and comparison. In comparison, you're looking for the ways in which things are the same, and in contrast, you're looking for the ways in which they're different from each other. But if you go through your whole life, every time something happens, looking at how it is either the same or different from something else that you've already known, you're going to miss the beauty of what's in front of you. Just breathe that in for a moment. This goes for every experience. This goes for your friendships, your relationships. This goes for your hobbies and all of your experiences. This even goes for you and how you feel in your own body. You know, sometimes we have that idea in our mind of when we were the best. And always trying to get back to that again in some kind of way. And it's okay to keep challenging yourself, but just know that every stage has its own blessing. Every stage has its own blessing. That when you look at nature, there's a beauty that happens in new growth, yes? But I also get fascinated by ancient trees. Isn't there a beauty in the tree that's been all marred and scarred and burnt and limbs that have fallen off or whatnot? Don't you get a sense of what a beautiful history there is there? Like if this tree could talk, yes? So it is with people. You know, what do you see when you see people? Everybody has a story. Every life is beautiful. Everybody's been through certain experiences and certain kinds of things. And we can always grow and we can always learn from each other. We make things grow. But sometimes we forget what our part is in making things grow. There's a story that my mother used to tell in church, particularly on youth Sundays, about this little boy, Johnny. It was early one morning, and Johnny's mother couldn't find him. She looked all around in the house, and she started to get worried because he wasn't anywhere in the house. And then she looked in the backyard, and there he was, all dewy and wet, out in the morning. And she says to him, "What are you doing?" And he sticks his little chest out and he says, "I'm helping God." And she says, "You are? Well, how are you helping God?" And he says, "I'm opening up the rosebuds." I'm opening up the rosebud. There's a bit of Johnny in all of us. But guess what? Opening up the rosebuds is not our job. We have a job, but opening up the rosebuds isn't that job. I remember in one of my spirit letters, I have these beautiful letters, some of them are in a series called Letters from the Infinite. And in the first volume, the Sacred Yes, there's a letter that says, that's part of the problem now. This is a spirit voice speaking. It says, too many people are trying to do my job. But you need to do your job. Don't do my job. You do your job. Because I have the seeds. I know what needs to grow and where it needs to grow and how much. But your job is just to create the soil that's fertile enough to accept any combination of decisions that are part of the divine plan. That's your job in making things grow. Breathe that in for a moment. Our job is the environment. Our job is not to make the fruit. Even something like a baby. A human, we don't know how to make babies. We know how to conceive, but we can't make a baby. We can create the environment and the space, the gestation space for the baby to do what the babies do, but we can't make a baby any more than we can make the roses. There's this story about these scientists that think that they're all that. They found the genome code, and they're challenging God to this little duel about who can make a human being the fastest. God says, all right, I'll take the challenge. So they pick a time, and they pick a place, and they're out in this desert area. Okay, and the referee is like, all right, on your mark, get set, go. 1, 2, 3. And the scientists scoop down and they start digging up some clay. And God said, get your own dirt. Get your own dirt. And even when we think that we're doing it and think that we're creating, we're always creating with the stuff of the universe that's already here. We're always creating with the stuff that God has already given us. The best that we can do is create the environment. The best that we can do is help for the growth, help for the transformation. I want to share a little story with you. It's a parable that Jesus told. And parables they're kind of like Buddhist koans. Like, what is the sound of one hand clapping? It's from the Middle Eastern traditions where you have to think about it. You have to contemplate what the answer is. Jesus spoke in these parables all the time. But this particular parable was so important. He said, if you don't get this one, you're not going to get anything that I have to say. This one was so important, it's the only parable in Scripture that he actually interprets. where he actually tells you, like, what it is, in fact, that it is about. So we know it is the parable of the sower and the seed. Remember, this is about how it is that we make things grow. In this parable, it says that a sower went out to sow his seed. And the seed fell in these 4 different environments, these 4 different kinds of places. He said the first seed fell upon the roadside. And the birds came and picked up the seeds, flew away. He said the second seed fell in the hilly places. Sprouted up quickly, but it shriveled quickly at the roots and died. The rocky places, excuse me. It's hilly, yes, but expanded. He says the first, the roadside, and the second, the rocky places on the hillside. And he says that the third seed fell upon the thorny places, the thorns and the thistles. Those seeds grew up, but after a while, the thorns and the thistles choked them out. He says, and the fourth seed fell in the fertile ground. And he talked about how they multiplied. So there were these 4 different terrain that these seeds fell in. The roadside, the rocky places, the thorns and the thistles, and then the fertile soil. This wasn't just a gardening lesson. The parables are always very literally true, but they are literally true as metaphor as well for something else in life. And he was making an analogy here between us and our minds as the soil and ideas and things that we grow and understand as the seeds. How receptive are we? The soil will grow any place that allows it to grow. A seed will grow in any soil that allows it to grow. The seed that fell upon the roadside, the birds came and took it. Because there was no planting. In order to plant, you got to move something. You have to disturb something. You have to create some room and some space. You might have to chisel a little bit and hammer a little bit. Because if that soil has become too impacted, too closed, too settled, nothing else can get in there. Are you with me? Okay. So there has to be some room and some place to put it. Now I can only imagine if the soil had feelings, or if the soil had nerve endings, it might not be all that fun. Being broken open, being churned, being moved around, being broken up, becoming malleable and soft. I don't really know what the soil feels about all of that. But I can guarantee you, with human beings, your soil isn't always happy about that. It gets real comfy. Real comfy. Just as it is. And for too many of us, we can't figure out why there's not change in our life. But we're like the sower with the seed by the roadside. We're just, boom, just dropping it but it doesn't go anywhere. This is particularly difficult for us in this modern technology that we have, where we are exposed to so much and nothing really gets in there. You know, American students, we don't really learn the way that we do grading and testing. We regurgitate. We just throw back information. People cram for the test just long enough to know the test. There are studies that show that most students, the test that they passed in June, 60% of them could not pass it in September if they did not cram again, because they didn't really learn it. Wanda Sykes did this wonderful routine about it. Her language can be a little foul, but it was funny. And she talked about it. She said, it's like for most of us, our brain is just like a big old Etch-a-Sketch. Stuff goes in there and we just, we just shake it all out so that it's a clean slate again. Are you with me? And that's what happens with too many of us. It doesn't stick. Whatever, miracles happen, breakthroughs happen, revelations happen, insights happen, and all this stuff, but it just, it's by the wayside. Bird, take it away. In one ear, out the other. It said some seeds fell upon the rocky places. So in the area where Jesus lived, close to Jerusalem, it's very hilly and it's very rocky. There's a lot of places where there's shallow soil. There's just a little bit of soil, but underneath it are rocks. Now, in order to build the garden, you have to remove some of those rocks. Sometimes they leave the rocks in, though, it's like retaining walls, so to speak, so that when the rains come, all the water doesn't wash away. But he was talking about that seed that fell on the shallow soil. It's just a thin layer of soil. And what would happen is that the heat of the sun would heat up the rocks underneath. So as the roots grew, the roots touched the hot rock, scorched and shriveled up. Grew fast, died fast. Shallow soil, shallow consciousness. I call this the metaphysical trap. We get little tools, we learn a little something woo, you up, a little something, whoop, we get these fast results, and then boom, it shrivels up. All this stuff doesn't work. You didn't move, you didn't unearth some stuff, you didn't cultivate the soil, you didn't move some stuff out the way. Are you with me? It's what I call when the heat is on. When the heat is on and heats up all those rocks that we've got up underneath there. We need to clear out some rocks. Too often, we're questioning the seeds. Are these seeds any good? Are these ideas any good? Are these stuff these preachers talking about? Are all these, woo-woo people, Oprah, it's does this stuff really work? And we're looking at the seed, but we're not looking at ourselves as the soil and the receptivity. He said that some fell upon the thorns and the thistles. The thorns and the thistles are weeds. They're weeds. Guess when you have to weed? All the time. You can't just weed in the beginning. You got to weed all the time. And you know what? The weeds grow faster than your plants. Listen to what I'm saying. The weeds go faster. Where do the weeds come from? Everywhere. They're blowing in the wind. You know, the gardener doesn't have to beat himself. What does that do about my consciousness that I have weeds in my garden? No. They're blowing. We're not responsible for all the thoughts that come to us, just the ones we harbor and nurture. That's what I'm saying. We are subjected to an extraordinary amount of ideas and thoughts. They're blown, just like communicable. They're blowing just like the weeds. It'll choke. It'll choke your plant if you don't weed. Now, the flip side of that, that's good news. Jesus also told us that all you needed was the faith of a mustard seed. That's all you needed. And the mustard seed is a little, itty, tiny little seed. It's a weed as well. But that mustard seed grows the strongest roots. It's the strongest weed. And when it gets in that garden, it gobbles up everything. Are you with me? It gobbles up everything. So the mustard seed might be a weed that you actually want to plant, because it'll eat up all the other weeds. It'll take over everything. Okay? How many of us do that? They kind of live and let live, and we're just going along, and it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. If you're in a 12-step program or any kind of recovery, you know you're going to have to make some changes. You just can't drop a new you, or like it says in Scripture, you can't put new wine into old skins, because the skin is effervescent. I mean, the wine is effervescent. It grows. It expands. You got to have a new environment. Are you with me? You just can't put the stuff down there and amongst all your old stuff and expect it to grow. And last but not least, it said the fertile soil. The fertile soil. That's receptive, and it grows. So which one are you? I love this little story because it's like my litmus test. It's my formula to make me think about my life. When I see a lot of stuff flourishing and growing that I don't necessarily want to have in my life, I have to take a look at how am I fertile soil for all of that. There's a difference. They're not blaming or judging, but is there anything that I'm doing that's colluding with that or enabling that? What other seeds can I plant? Whatever kind of environment can I have? This one's for the adults. And I think it's in A Return to Love, or maybe I just heard her say it, Marianne Williamson. She was talking about this friend of hers who was complaining about dating and how she just kept having the same experience over and over again, and she kept hooking up with these men who wouldn't commit, afraid of making commitment. And Marianne gently explained to her friend, the problem isn't that you keep meeting men that don't commit. The problem is you keep giving them your phone number. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. We have a part in making things grow. And that wonderful thing here is that wherever we give our attention, and even what we're about to do now with this blessing, something multiplies. It's a synergy, synchronized energy, where the sum of it is greater than the parts, where you get, it's like a team. 4 individual people can only do so much. 4 people working together can do a lot more and get a lot more accomplished. And when we line up, this is good news, oh, and this is bad news. When people synchronize in their emotions, when they synchronize in their beliefs and their thoughts, they make that belief multiply. So you know what happens if somebody's angry, or there are people who are angry, and there are a whole bunch of other people that get caught up in that anger, boom, it multiplies, yes? Okay. And we also know that if you get people synchronized around the world, all praying at the same time, all meditating or something at the same time, boom, boom, there's this force that happens, yes? Okay. So I'm going to close this part now, but just remember, your thoughts aren't private. Your emotions aren't private. You're sending something out in the world all the time. And those other people that are agreeing with you, those other people that are resonating with you, they're going to make that idea much more powerful. This is why history repeats itself. This is why history repeats itself. Because consciousness and ideas never die. They're always out there, like the cloud, that you can download and tune into at any moment in time, consciously or unconsciously, yes? So we need to be very, very careful on what that is we resonate with, what we give our attention to, what we align with. Because it doesn't matter if you want it or you don't want it. It's the amount of your attention. Really got to hear this. It doesn't matter whether you want it or you don't want it. You make it multiply by how much attention you give it. Like, if I say I don't want blue, no more blue. Nope, done with blue. I ain't thinking about blue. Don't anybody bring me any blue. I am done with blue. You look like a blue. Nope. No, girl, you know what the blues did? I'm so done with blue. I ain't gonna have no more blue. No more blue up in here. Done with blue. Guess what? You know what I'm gonna have. What am I gonna have? A whole lot of blue. At some point, I gotta go, ooh, yellow. Don't I look good in green? Ooh, purple, yeah. How about a little red? Refocus your energies, okay? I don't care whether you're talking about your pocketbook or politics. What are you making multiply? And are you making sure that you only multiply what you really want to see? What are you fertile soil for? What are you standing in agreement with and aligning with? Choice is always yours. Isn't that wonderful? That the choice is always ours. It doesn't matter what's happened before, or who's done what, or what your grandmama did, or your granddaddy, what. The choice is always ours to clean it up. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? We're not stuck. We can change anything. We can change the isms. We can change anything. Isn't that wonderful? We get to choose what grows. Let's take a breath.